in order for something to happen that's of importance, or for it to take place so that the person at the center is going to be able to participate as much as possible, we have to do some planning around that. We can't just expect that this is going to happen, especially when somebody is on the autism spectrum. Preparation is key. So we have this form that I've developed, and it's called a planning form, and it just walks you through all of the questions that somebody who lives on the spectrum is going to ask. And when you answer all these questions ahead of time, this planning form, when it's filled out, it becomes a schedule, a list, a social story. It becomes like this major, massive tool that allows the person at the center to be successful, and for friends as well. So we start with sort of thinking about what is it that we want to do? What's the event that we're going to participate in? And it might be something like, say, a party night. We used to do party nights a long time ago, and we got away from it. Now we think that, having a party or a get together with friends is what people like to do when you don't have a disability. Why isn't it something that we like to do for people who live with a disability? So let's talk about party night. Party night would be the event, and then the activity might be something that they're going to do during that party night. So we figure out the event, we figure out the activity, and then we have to plan all of the details around that. So we want to go through the planning form. We want to figure out what's the date of the event, when is it going to happen, what time of day. So figure that out. We want to invite some people along, or go and hang out with some friends. So we want to figure out who do we want to invite to this party night, to this activity. And then we want to probably have their contact information on there. If we don't know it off the top of our head, we want to also record whether or not they're able to come. So once we contact our friend, are they able to participate or not? And then I mentioned about the time, and so it shouldn't just be the time that they start the event. It should be the time that you're estimating that it will end as well. And if there are some things during the activity that there will be some changes in whatever it is that you're doing, like say for instance you're doing a dinner followed by karaoke, then you might want to also in your time section include the time that dinner starts. You might even want to start earlier than that, the time that you're all going to get together, you're going to meet, then the time you're going to have dinner, then the time you're going to finish dinner, then maybe the time that you're going to go and play or do karaoke, and then the time that's going to be finished up, and go home. Then we want to talk about the place where the activity is going to take place. We want to have all the details around that so that the person at the center who's planning this event knows exactly what to expect. So where it is, the address, if they're not familiar with the place, then maybe some details about the place so that they can remember, oh yeah, I've been there before. Right. And then the next piece is the transportation piece. And so that looks after how are they going to get there and how are they going to get back home. And that's really important because some people, they can't get there on their own. And so expecting them to figure out how to get there won't work. We have to figure that out for them. And if they're going to be driven, who's going to be the driver? We want to make sure that the driver has a vehicle that's safe. We want to make sure that they've got a license and insurance. All of those things need to be considered. And then, let's see. Oh, there might be a meal involved. And that's a really big deal. So we want to be talking about, if we're going out for dinner, is this a place where there's going to be food served they're going to be able to eat? So say, for instance, they're gluten-free or dairy-free, and that presents a problem for their diet or whatever, is where they're going to be able to serve them the food that they want. And or say, for instance, they're doing something at home and they're going to have a potluck. Then you would want to have details around the potluck. So who's going to bring what, whatever. All those details would be included. And then, of course, there's the cost, because, you know, there's usually a cost involved, but it's really important to be considering things like the cost for things like the transportation, the meal, if there's some kind of a gift that needs to be purchased, if it's a birthday party or something. And the cost of the supporters, for their expenses, maybe that has to be covered, and everything needs to be itemized so that everything can be budgeted, because people who live with disabilities don't have a whole lot of money, and it all has to be budgeted out. So that's really important. So we can sort of walk through all of the various different costs. And then there's the supporters. So there's a section under supporters. This is where you figure out who's going to have extra support. If friends are coming, are they people with disabilities that they need to bring their own supporters? It would be really helpful if that's the case. It would be helpful to know who the supporters are going to be, their names, and so that the person at the center who's planning this will know who's actually going to be there. It's always helpful for them to know that. And sometimes there are people who don't need a whole lot of support, and maybe if it is some friends that have disabilities that are getting together, maybe they could share supports. That's something else to consider as well. Or is there somebody who's coming who's a friend who can be very supportive and not be paid? That would be the ideal, that you would have friends coming together who are not paid. And then there's a section called What to Bring. And this lists absolutely everything that you need to bring if you're going out someplace. So some of the things that we've included in the past were like a bus pass, money for a lunch or snack or dinner or whatever, a water bottle if they're going someplace where it's warm, they need to have water. If they're going swimming or something, swimsuit and towel. They might need to actually, instead of buy lunch, they might need to pack a lunch, so they might need to bring a packed lunch. If they're going to a movie, they might need to bring their access to an entertainment card. And I know that for Laura, sometimes what she needs to bring is the actual planning form, so that she can refer to it, so she knows exactly what's going on if it's something that's new to her. And then there's the next section in the planning form is information for the hosts only. So this is a place where, once you've hosted a little bit of a get-together, you have an opportunity to debrief with your supporter, and you can talk about things that really went well, things that didn't go so well, and if we're going to do this again, there might be some things that need to be tweaked a little bit, suggestions for improvement. Maybe you thought of somebody that you missed inviting, and maybe next time you'd like to invite somebody else. Maybe there's some suggestions about recipes or games or activities or something, and you would, as the host, you would include that kind of information. There is another section on the planning form that takes care of anything else that hasn't been covered off in all of the sections that I just mentioned. So it might be that there's a website for the place that you're going to. Say if you're going to Wonderland and you want to be able to go and check the website out ahead of time, or anything else that you think that the person at the center or any of the guests would need to know, can be written down in this other information section. So what's the benefit of doing all of this? You know what? For every single detail that's missing off of a planning form, there's going to be at least one question. So if you want to avoid questions and anxiety, then the best thing to do is to anticipate what are the questions going to be and answer them ahead of time. And if everything is all written down like this, then you can share the planning form with whoever is going to be participating in the activity. And then when everybody knows the same information, it just flows better, especially when you're talking about somebody who has a disability and they're not able to necessarily answer all these questions if somebody asked them. It would be better if they just had the information ahead of time. And then, something else that's really beneficial about this is that when somebody is doing these planning forms all the time, like regularly, they get used to, this is how you plan to do an activity. So for me, if I'm doing an activity, I just go through all of these things automatically. I don't really even think about it. But for somebody who has an intellectual disability, going through all of these details is something that's really challenging. So practice doing this over and over again. They get to the point where, they're able to do these planning forms all on their own. And that's really exciting to see them sort of taking ownership for what it is that they want to be doing. Oh, and the other thing, when we plan like this and we write all these plans down, it might be something that the person at the center wants to do again. So say, for instance, going out for karaoke, that's something you can do over and over again. Well, then you have a resource. You already have all the information for how to do a karaoke night, and you don't have to go and answer all these questions all over again. All you need to do is print off the planning form, and there it is, right there in front of you. The resource is already done. You already know all the information, and you can just go out and do it and have a great time. So this is a blank planning form. Here's where you write in the name of the host, whoever is planning the event. So here I've got my name, and this is the date to be distributed by. So people who are coming, they need to have all of this information maybe a couple of days or maybe even a week in advance so they can plan. So this is the event. So say this is a birthday party, and that's the event. And then we want to have the activity, and the activity might be karaoke. Let's say it's karaoke. And then you'd have your date of the event, I don't know, let's say, and then we have the list of friends. So we would put our friends' names in here. We might also include their phone numbers. And then once we contact them, are they able to come? And we're going to hope everybody's coming. Then we have please RSVP by. So we would let them know that they need to let us know in advance. So we'd have a date here. This is all the times that we would need for the activity. So say, for instance, we're going out for dinner. We might be leaving at 5 o'clock, and then we would explain what that is, pickup time. And then we might need to, say we arrive at the destination at 5:30, and we would explain that. And then we might have dinner at 6 o'clock, and we would explain that. And then maybe we have karaoke at 7:30, and we would explain that. And then at the end of the night, it's at like 9 o'clock, we go home. We would explain all of that in this section, and it can expand when you're typing it in. Then we have all the information here about the place of the event. So all the information that you can detail here about where it is, the address, anything that tells you about the sounds that are there, the lights. There are some people who really need to know all that information. These are some of the details you would include here. Then all of the transportation issues would be written in here. How to get there, how to get from spot to spot, how to get home. And then on this other section here, this is the meal section. So you would have all the information about the food before, during, and after the event. You would fill in anything having to do with the food here. And then you would break down all the costs, because it's important to budget. You'd have it broken down by item here. So you would include all that detail. And then here, who's going to be supporting? So it might be a paid supporter. If it's a paid supporter, you need to have, maybe the dollar amount that's going to go into, paying that person. If it's a supportive friend, who is that going to be? And any details around your arrival, departure of support people. And then there's a list of things to bring. And then there's a little check place here, so you can actually check them off. So if you need to bring money, if you need to bring, your pills, whatever it is, anything that you need to bring, you get it all listed here. And this is information for after the event is over. It's sort of a debriefing that lets everybody know, you know, what is it that happened? What could be better? What went well? What didn't go so well? What would we change next time? Who would we invite differently? Then if there's any other information that's required that comes up, it would be listed here in the other information section, and it would just be written down there.